Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to DTM Esports Pro Series 2024. Oh boy, it feels like we were just doing the qualifying rounds merely a few days ago, but it wasn't. It was a couple of months ago now. And we're already into round 2 of the Pro Series. We were eagerly anticipating a Kevin Siggy versus Moritz Lohner showdown, but we birthed a new potential champion. Tim Yarshall took the spoils last time out and leads the championship. My name is Luke Crane. I'll be one of your commentators today. I am joined by Connery Maddock. How you doing, Connery? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing absolutely fine. I'm pumped for this race here at the Nürburgring, which we'll get to witness in a couple of moments' time. Of course, getting into the swing of things in terms of the championship. Now we've set the early stage, but we still have a lot of unknowns ahead of us to try and find out.
100%. The fact that we had Tim Yarshall, who we know is a very good sim racer and one of the very best, but to beat the best on RaceRoom was quite sensational, actually, in the way he did it at the Nürburgring. But today we are at the Nürburgring, and maybe you're sat at home thinking, oh, I could drive these cars. Well, you can do, because the cars are available on RaceRoom. And here's a little video to tease what you could get if you buy the pack on the game. So there you go, ladies and gentle cars. That is what you can indeed go and get yourself now in RaceRoom right now. And you can replicate what you're about to see on screens. Right, let's talk about today's event then, as we are indeed here. Of course, you can go and replicate it, but we have got 32 of the very best drivers that will be taking part in today's championship. But let's check out the calendar then of the season. There is your calendar for you right there. Of course, we've already done rounds 1 and, round 1, Nürburgring, which is mainly, I would say, the only lottery circuit we have on the calendar. It was so close in qualifying. You could maybe miss 200ths of a second and find yourself 10 spots down the grid. That's the nature of Nürburgring. But that's done and dusted. Tim Yarshall was the king of Nürburgring. Now we're at the Nürburgring, which is today, of course, 2 races. First up, we have a 20-minute timed race, and then the second race will be a 30-minute timed race with a mandatory pit stop, remember. Then we head to the Lausitzring next weekend. Then we have a little bit of a break, and then we head into April. We have the Sachsenring. Then we have the Red Bull Ring on the 12th of April, and then the 19th of April will be the finale, which it normally is in DTM, the Hockenheim Ring. So pretty exciting times there, Connery. But let's check out today's timetable for you all, so you know exactly what is up for grabs in terms of viewing. Of course, we've already had the countdown, so don't worry about that. Stream start, well, we're doing that right now. We've got Quali 1 starting in about 11 minutes. We will head over to the practice session very shortly, so you can see some cars and hear some engines. Race 1 will start at 20 to 8 European time. Then we indeed finish that, all done and dusted. Very quickly, we'll head to qualifying number 2. The qualifying slightly shorter, so the first one is 10 minutes. Second one is 8 minutes. Then we have indeed a 30-minute timed race opposed to a 20-minute timed race on what we have for the race number 1. In race number 2, there is a mandatory pit stop that they have to serve as well. And then we have some interviews. We'll be talking to some of the drivers, and then it will be done and dusted and over for another week. Oh, boy. Connery, this proves to be a pretty exciting championship. RaceRoom Esports at the very top level has an unbelievable top tier of talent, into the hundreds, I would say, that are capable of racing at this level. How excited are you for the Nürburgring?
I think this is going to be a completely different beast to what the Nürburgring was going to be, was like. Because you said it quite rightfully, Nürburgring was a little bit of a lottery, right? There's only very few corners, very simple corners. You can throw a blanket over the entire field. Anyone could have really realistically won that race. That was the situation at the Nürburgring. However, this one's going to challenge the drivers a little bit more. Of course, much more technical circuits. I mean, everyone knows the Nürburgring GP circuit. It really does need no introduction. But it's going to be intriguing for that reason, because we I don't think we really got a real start to the championship. It feels kind of weird to say, right? To have such a wild card circuit be the first track is, well, I don't think we have too much information to go off of, really, from the Nürburgring, because it was such an equal playing field, because it was basically flip a coin and you know, person with the best track position wins. I don't think we've really seen a realistic example of each driver's pace in this season just yet, and I think this is the first time we'll see it.
Yeah, this will be the first time where people really put their representative time down. Right, let's head out to the practice session and let's see some cars out on track, running around and all that good stuff. Little note that I will bring to you, it will be the sprint layout we're using today. I found out why they used the sprint layout last season, because I was actually there with DTM, and it's because they actually have training or coaching on the hairpin part of the circuit, so that's why they use the sprint layout. And luckily, we're actually going to get started on time here, because when I was there last time, we had a delay because it was so foggy you couldn't see maybe half a meter in front of you. It was that foggy, and we had a delay of about 8 hours during the day, and the cars were on the grid for about 4 of those. It was a very surreal experience, but as you can see here, it's nice and clear.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the benefit of sim racing. The weather can't necessarily get bad that we have to red flag the race. So it's you know, it's quite a nice situation. So we don't have to sit here and try and fill for 4 hours while the race control waits for the track to dry out. So yeah, we're thankful that we don't have to do that. Drivers just getting out there, acclimatizing to the current conditions, shall we say. Of course, they would have put in a lot of preparation on the run up to this race. It was, you know, it's quite an intensive couple of weeks, actually. We've got, you know, back-to-back races for the first 3 races of the season. Then we have a 2-week break, and then we have back-to-back races for the final 3 races of the season. So there's not a lot of time here to actually try to adapt to each of these circuits week to week to week to week to week. So yeah, it is quite relentless in that aspect.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more there. Right, let's go to the chat then. Where are you watching from around the world? Who are you supporting in this? Let me know in the chat right now. Whether you're watching on DTM's YouTube channel with the English commentary, and I'm also watching along on my channel as well. So get yourself involved in the chat and let me know who you're watching around the world. But Jack Keithley, by a 1/10 of a second, is currently the fastest out there, ahead of Emre Cihan. 2 drivers that, if you look up RaceRoom in the dictionary, they will be in the description of RaceRoom Esports, because they are always there or thereabouts. And yeah, they're at the top of the timesheets. Yeah,
absolutely. Of course, Keithley been around for donkey's years, as we would say. Basically, one of the stalwarts, one of the founding fathers of RaceRoom Esports, probably. He's definitely on that list. However, Emre Cihan, of course, he's come to the forefront more relatively recently. Over the last couple of years, he's really gone from strength to strength. He's put in a good effort here in the opening part of the season to really stamp his authority and say, I belong here at the top tier of RaceRoom Esports. Of course, you know, it's great to see you know, drivers develop over the years. I mean, we've both been here long enough, Luke, so that we remember drivers when they first make an impact in the pro scene, and then we see them develop, we see them win championships eventually, and you know, that's just a cycle that goes on constantly. You know, with Emre Cihan, of course, he's going to be trying to get, you know, on the podium here, get those race wins, trying to make a shot at the championship. But who knows? There might be a name further down the order where they might not do so well this season, but maybe in the next season, the season after that, they're going to be the ones near the top.
Yeah, they certainly won't be worried about next season, though. This is the time to prove themselves and get themselves a foothold within the sim racing sphere. Let's say hello to a few people. Then we've got Haz, we've got Baffrage, we've got Skinny. Who else is watching right now? We've got Big Shaq watching, Zappy as well. Welcome, guys, to the DTM Esports. Got ourselves 2 races for you this evening, so should be a load of fun. Right, Axel Vermeulen is 3rd spot. He's the first of our privateer drivers, not representing anybody, from Belgium in that number 9 car. I could be wrong in terms of the privateer, but he was privateer last time round. I'm pretty sure. So maybe a team's picked him up. But I did see that he had a livery with no team on it. So I'm assuming he's still a privateer, but doing very well. Currently 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. He's well, also currently down on pit lane. Just maybe taking a little bit of a break from this session. I mean, the practice session being called practice is kind of a bit of a misnomer at the moment, because these guys would have done so much preparation. This is just more of a acclimatization to racing with their other competitors around them in one big session. But yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to see all the drivers, give their full commitment in races like this, and we'll have to wonder whether or not qualifying is going to be as important here at the Nürburgring as it was at the Norrisring, where you could argue that track position was the name of the game.
Yeah, track position was absolutely everything at the Norrisring, but I believe it'll be the same here as well. I just think in racing, it's very difficult to make overtakes these days. In real life, maybe because the cars are slightly overdeveloped, I think it's more difficult to pass each other. But in sim racing, it's just because it's that close now. Like the top 100, 200 drivers in sim racing are a lot closer than what the top 200 are in real racing. So there's, you need to be a half a second faster a lap to be able to make a successful overtake, or there or thereabouts. But when you're only a couple of hundreds behind somebody, it becomes nigh on impossible. So you're waiting for someone to make a mistake. So in sim racing, I think it's even more difficult to make an overtake. If someone there decides to park it, yep, not sure you're allowed to park there, mate. But nice try.
Absolutely. Well, we also, new for the English stream for this round, we get to see inside the drivers' rooms, shall we say. There's Christopher Hergveld as he tries to wheel.
Hold on, Connor.
Go on.
Not for any particular reason. Do we have a certain Italian's camera that we can maybe go and look at?
But potentially, you might have to give me a moment to try and find it.
Okay, no worries. Not for any particular reason. Not for any particular reason, obviously.
It's
but
not
for the fans.
It's not the quickest thing for me to switch this over, but I will look at a certain Italian driver. Let's see if he is on the Zoom, because sometimes drivers really leave it until very last minute to be able to get themselves joined up to these things. And in fact, Enzo Benito was the last one to join. So, if we have a look at him,
he's a good sim racer and he's good to look at. But I'll tell you one thing: getting him to do something like join on cameras is very difficult. I can tell you that from first-hand experience.
There we go, and there we go. There's Enzo Benito.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there we go. God, what an absolute treat that is. Look at him. Absolute specimen of a human being. I have no favourites, guys. I am completely impartial. Let's move on. I do not support the better-looking drivers. That is not a thing, okay? Let's not make it a thing.
So we're going to make it a thing. Don't worry.
Okay. Copy.
So the more handsome a driver looks, the higher Luke rates them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, no, absolutely not. I mean, what are you talking about, Connery? That would be very unprofessional of me.
Well, you gotta be careful. I might ask you to rate the entire field in a second.
Oh, crikey! I'll upset a lot of people.
Yeah, you'll get called out on Twitter or something.
Get me some engagement.
Yeah, I mean, positive, negative engagement is all engagement, right? But
exactly that.
We've got a very short amount of time left here in practice. Of course, actually very few drivers actually setting actual lap times at the moment. They're just doing one sighting lap and not even coming across the line to start a flyer. They're just sort of getting themselves ready. So I wouldn't really read too much into the practice times that we have here at the moment. We do have to wait for that qualifying session to be able to get a good bearing on how the race is going to go. Of course, we will have two qualifying sessions here today, one for race number 1, our sprint race, and one for race number 2, which is going to be our quote-unquote endurance race, where we do have one mandatory pit stop where they do have to take tyres.
Moritz Lohner's a liar, ladies and gentlemen, confirmed. He posted on Twitter today saying he was half a second off the pace in the BMW. Well, he's less than 3/10 off right now, so, just think you're lying, Moritz. He doesn't feel like he's got much of a chance of you today due to the BOP, which, when you are at the very top end of sim racing or real-world motorsport, BOP is a very big conversation. Something I'm not going to talk about, ironically. Nikodem Wisniewski, I did ask if the liveries were going to be on there, but they're not, unfortunately. So, it's still a pretty cool-looking car, funky-looking car. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get the G2 livery on the car, because they were actually quite late sign-up for the team, weren't they? Mm-hmm. They were late announced, anyway. They got announced during the competition. So yeah, that's probably why. Yuri Toman about to come across the line. Doesn't look like he's going to get a time in. But like you just said there, Connery, this is a practice session. This is all about them just getting into a rhythm. And now they can indeed concentrate on qualifying, which is about to begin. My dad's watching, by the way. Hi, Dad. How you doing? You right? Nice one. Good stuff.
I didn't realize your dad watched your streams.
He watches all of it. He watches
Really?
all of it. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
I mean, apparently my parents have previously watched some of mine before.
Oh, they watch all of mine, your parents.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. Qualifying started though, Luke.
Yeah, it certainly has. Right, let's get on board then, shall we, with Erhan Yayovsky. Ethan Yayovsky, if you like. Running down towards turn number 1, we will go. Everybody gets to start just before the Coca-Cola curve, meaning that they can start a flying lap pretty much straight away. Down towards turn number 1, we will go then. Getting on the brakes, the curve appears on the left-hand side, using the camber of the inside of the corner there to rotate the car. Now we head up towards turn number 2. This is where you're going to see drivers try and make an overtake, trying to get the drivers offline to ultimately get it finished down towards turn number 3. And there's a little groove on the inside of the curb there, which you can get your left wheels into. Will help you rotate the car, move over to far left to then get through this right-hander, turn number 4, and maintain as much speed as you possibly can. And now we come to the sprint variant hairpin. Now this corner is cambered, so it helps you again rotate the car, but on the exit, you get it slightly wrong, you'll end up into the barrier or into the grass at the very least there. That's turn number 5. Now we come through turn number 6, the start of a very long-winded chicane. Now through turn number 7. You feel like you can get the power down really, really early there, but ultimately if you get it layered down too early, you'll end up off into the grass as well, or indeed invalidating your lap time. Now it's flat out all the way up the hill, up towards turn number 8 and 9. This is a chicane. And we are taking the first of the chicanes here, which is a slower variant. The endurance variant is a little bit to the right-hand side there, which is a little bit faster. Now we're heading up towards that final corner, the Coca-Cola curve. You just got to hug that inside line, pin that power down, use all of the curve on the exit, and ultimately you're praying now that you've gone fast enough to beat P1. And as it stands, Ethan is actually 300ths of a second off of P1. Nikodem Wisniewski, the Polish driver, who is no longer in P1, he's in second now, because Shinshik, Ethan Yayovsky's teammate, has gone and put a 24.5 in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the early laps in qualifying. Of course, drivers will have, well, as many flying laps as they can complete in 10 minutes. There's no limit on the amount of laps that they can do. So as long as they keep getting out there and bash those laps away, then they can make them count. But currently, yeah, it is Marcel Chinchik. Well, provisional pole position by 36 thousandths of a second at the moment. The top 4 separated by just a single tenth of a second. In terms of those drivers, those notable drivers that when able to set a initial qualifying time, remember you have to make sure your lap is valid, you haven't got any off tracks or corner cuts or anything like that during the lap. Well, Lona wasn't able to set a lap. Yarshall, Siggy, some of the big names down there have not been able to set lap times just yet.
Yeah, all big dogs, aren't they? Siggy, Muller, Yarshall, Hugveld, Lerner, all names synonymous with RaceRoom in terms of the top of the esports pile. None of them have got lap times in. Luckily, it's a short lap, just under 1.5 minutes. As Kevin Siggy proves that. He's now 0.04 of a second off of Wisniewski and Marcel Chinchik. But if I look at the top 3 in the championship right now, Tim Yarshall, Moritz Lerner, and Gianmarco Fiducci, the lead driver of all of them, well, it's Tim Yarshall, because he's just gone provisional pole.
Yep, he has. So this was one of the storylines that I did want to have a little bit of a chat about coming out of the Norris Ring, because, like I said already, I don't think we saw necessarily the representative pace of each of the drivers at the Norris Ring due to the nature of the circuit. So I had a little bit of doubt, I will admit, I had a little bit of doubt on Tim Yarshall, whether or not he'd be able to carry on his awesome performance at the Norris Ring into the later rounds. But currently he is saying that, well, I'm here to stay at the top of the pile at the moment. Provisional pole position, still with 6 minutes left to go, so still plenty of time for things to change at the moment. But Yarshall definitely saying that, well, Norris Ring, that wasn't a fluke, mate.
Yeah, I wasn't particularly worried about him being, you know, at the sharp end. Pole position, I didn't, you know, that could be, could not be. He, like I alluded to last time, or I spoke about last time, he was a part of the first ever FaZe team lineup in sim racing, which would have been huge pressure, significant pressure on his shoulders, because FaZe aren't just one of the, you know, the biggest names in sim racing now, but they are one of the biggest esports teams in the world. Like, it is as simple as that. You can never take that away from them in terms of their view numbers, in terms of, you know, the roster they have on different games, etc., etc. They are there to win. So that pressure he had last year on his shoulders will only have helped him in these scenarios. So if anything, this, it's not saying this is easier, but with 10 minutes in qualifying, the season, the championship he was in with FaZe, they only had 1 lap to get qualifying in. So I think that Yarshall would have learned so much in the last 12 months, and that's why we're seeing now the very best of him as he comes across the line. He's gone purple through this middle sector, and he's gone faster again. Yeah. He's now just shy of a 1/10 of a second clear of everybody. So any worries that Tim Yarshall was maybe going to fall off compared to what he was producing last week, well, they have been put to bed very quickly indeed. Also, my dad says hello, Connery.
Yeah. Anyway. Hello, Luke's dad. There we go. But a couple of other drivers just coming across the line, either to end laps or to start them. That was ending a lap there for Leandro Wurler, who's in that BMW, down in P22 at the moment. But, you know, that makes it sound bad, right? P22. But when you consider the field at the moment, you know, with all of these drivers, all these, like, absolute race room legends, and, you know, they've... the vast majority of them have dipped their toes into some other simulators as well. Being P22 in a field like this, I think you'd probably be okay with, right?
Oh, 100%. Like, it's... If you're not within half a second here, you're in trouble. It really is as simple as that. You know, you have to find that time in qualifying or you're right out the order. Moritz Lohner, you know, now have to obviously take it back about the whole half a second thing because he's now 6/10 off in 27th. So he's not really happy at all, as we see here. Then Jeffrey Rietveld about to go a little bit faster. He's 14th as it stands. Those times are indeed, well, I tell you what, they are all about his lap time. The purple sector isn't to do with the full server, and he's just gone up to second spot. Or as soon as I say that, Nikodem Wisniewski now moves up into second position himself. So Jeffrey Rietveld, the Dutchie, moves up into third position.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic lap there from Rietveld to be able to get up onto the front two rows. Here comes Dominic Blyer through P16 here at the moment. And is there an improvement? Yes, there is. Up into P12 for the Polish driver from Williams Esports. We are getting into the latter part of the session now, so the pressure's going to be on a little bit to try and get your best lap in. Of course, every driver has completed a lap, and every driver is within a second of the pole position time. That is what we love to see.
Yeah, we certainly do. It's very, very close out there. Again, look at the top 10. It's less than 0.2 of a second. Emery Cheehan being, well, he was 10th. As Leonard Krippner moves up into 8th spot. We've got Yuri Toman, who moves up a couple of positions into 3rd position. Actually displaces one of his teammates in Marcel Shinchik. We're on board with him right now. He's just shy of a 1/10 of a second off of Tim Yarshall's pole position, but he finds himself in 5th spot. It's ridiculously close here at the Nürburgring sprint variant, and actually he is going faster than he has ever been before. As I say that, he must have watched sector number 2 because he restarts again.
He absolutely takes the toe back to the starting point and decides that, well, to abandon that particular lap. As he heads this way across the line now, he will have time to get one more in. And as long as, well, I mean, he can still abandon through the first sector here, get back and get another attempt in if he really needs. But if he gets into the latter portions of this lap, then he simply will not have the time to be able to set another lap time. And, well, he's certainly one that's capable of getting himself up into pole position here. You can see the top 5 are separated by 1/10 of a second. So really, any one of these could take pole at the end.
Easy for you to say. Marcel Shinchik then on his final attempt. Tim Yarshall has just gone purple through the first 2 sectors of his lap time as well, looking to absolutely put qualifying to bed and ultimately take that pole position and, well, to go clear in the pole position award as well. There is a prize of an Asher wheel for pole position, and as you go across the line, it's a 1/10 of a second clear now of Wisniewski. It's nearly a full 1/10 faster than he's been before. And yeah, not just for this qualifying, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the season, if you are the pole sitter, or if you get the most pole position awards, you'll win yourself a prize. Well, a little bit more information about that later on. Right, we've got ourselves about 1 minute to go. A few people going faster. Leonard Krippner's going quicker. Ben Spanky has just gone across the line. He's up to 18th position. Marcel Shinchik's absolutely flying as it stands. We're on board with Leonard Krippner. He's going on for another lap time as well. Let me know where you're watching from around the world. Let me know who you're supporting here today. Let's get involved in the chat, shall we? Let's get a bit of excitement. There is Leonard Krippner. He's faster through sector number 1. What about sector number 2? You can see the white line at the bottom. It signifies exactly where he is in the sector, and actually sector 2 is not going to be faster in terms of pole position, but he is faster than what he has produced. So right now he is around about 600-7 hundredths quicker than he has previously gone, and ultimately that is game over. He's just gone 8 seconds faster in the final sector without completing it there. So Yeah, not too bad, but it doesn't count. So Leonard Kripner is best will be P8. Leandro Werle then in P20. We just saw Michel move up into 28th position. And I think the only driver really going any faster is Leonard Carton at the back end, and I believe Emre Cihan. But I think it might be safe to say here, Connery, Tim Yarshall picking up his second pole position of the season. A new star was born last time at the Nürburgring, and well, he has absolutely kept that form going heading into this weekend. Got Nikodem Wisniewski then for G2 Esports in second by just over a tenth of a second. Yuri Toman for RAG Esports. He's just over a tenth of a second further back. Jeffrey Rietveld, the Dutchie. Team Redline is, again, just over a tenth of a second off the pace in fourth position. Marcel Shinchik finds himself just under 2/10 off as well. The top five separated by 2/10 of a second. Oh, this bodes well for a fantastic set of races today.
Yep, it really does. I certainly can't wait for this one. And of course, there's going to be, I would argue, more ample overtaking opportunities at the Nürburgring than there was at the Nürburgring. Just look at that long braking zone down in towards the hairpin at turn number 1. Of course, you know, it's such a tempting move down the inside there to just go and absolutely send it on your competitors. But of course, it's also a corner for known for ending many drivers' races in those exact sets of circumstances. So you do have to be a little bit careful into there. This arena section through the first sector really promotes some good side-by-side racing and prolonged side-by-side racing, which I hope we'll see in the 2 races that we have here today.
Yeah, and like you just pointed out there, you know, there could be catastrophe just because of how close everybody is. To make an overtake here, you have to almost force the issue. So it's a tough one. You know, you've got to, if you've qualified out of position, let's say, you've got to take some real big chances in the first race, especially if you maybe didn't have a good week 1. And that's another factor we need to bring in here, Connery. Building of a championship. If you had a poor first couple of rounds, you can't afford to have a poor round, you know, round 3 and round 4. Otherwise, it's pretty much championship over. So I think we're going to start to see people getting desperate very early on today.
Yep, I think so too. Our go-forward attitude is probably one that's going to be the most common in the opening portions of this race. So prepare for a little bit of chaos potentially, hopefully the good kind in terms of the battles that we'll see instead of any instance that might happen out on circuit.
Yep, 100%. Here we go then. We are ready for our first race of the day. Remember, ladies and gentle cars, we have got ourselves a 20-minute timed race with no pit stop in the first race. We just had qualifying for that. Then we have a second qualifying session after this race, which will be a little bit shorter than what we just had. It will be 8 minutes, and then we head to a 30-minute timed race with a mandatory pit stop where they have to change all 4 tires. Here we go then. We've got ourselves 5 red lights on our screen. Hopefully we'll get the cars as well. Tim Yarshall will take us away down towards turn number 1. And well, there we go. We are green light racing, ladies and gentlemen, and Tim Yarshall takes us down behind the pace car. So we've got 1 full lap, remember, behind, of course, our partnership with Cooper. The first ever time in RaceRoom we've had a safety car. This is what happens in real life as well. We have that partnership with Cooper and DTM. They'll take us around this sprint circuit, and then it will be all about a rolling start. So, Connery, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit here and let you give me your predictions first. Tim Yarshall on pole position. Who do you think is going to get the job done today?
Well, Yarshall's qualifying pace was absolutely mega. He was pretty much untouchable as far as pole position is concerned, especially in the field with such a high caliber such as this one. So I think if he's untroubled into turn 1 in the first sector, I think he has the capability to try and pull away from the rest of the field. Yes, the draft is going to be a big factor in this one, and that's definitely what Wisniewski is hoping, that he could just stick in the draft of Yarshall and just keep with him and then try and make an opportunity happen a little bit later on. But you'd be hard pressed to bet on anyone other than Yarshall at the moment, especially with how that qualifying went.
100%. I think we should keep our eyes glued to Moritz Lohner from P27. Now that he's not going to win the race. Again, apologies for the for discounting the tweet earlier on, because definitely that car is a little bit off the pace. But yeah, Moritz Lohner from P27, I think in a race here is going to find himself some opportunities. But I am going to say Jeffrey Rietveld is going to find a way. He's going to use all of that experience he's got. He's going to find a way to get himself up to the sharp end of the grid. Here we go then. Pace car. Out the pit lane. Through the pit lane they come. It's now all about the race start from Tim Yarshall. So Yarshall on pole position for Falcon Sim Racing. We've then got Nikodem Wisniewski for G2 Esports, Yuri Toman for indeed RHG. Jeffrey Rietveld for Team Redline, Shinshik, Siggy, Price, Kripner, Yayovsky, Muller are your top 10, and we are Green Light Racing. We're heading down towards turn number 1 here at the Nürburgring sprint variant, and Tim Yarshall has not got a good start here at all. He is side by side with Wisniewski. Wisniewski has just about got his nose up ahead. He's going to have to take the long way round. Yarshall, though, is going to run very deep. The two red line cars do have it coming together. And who is that's Kevin Siggy that's gone round the wrong way. Jeffrey Rietveld is going to continue on. He moves up into 3rd position. But already we are seeing trials and tribulations for our current championship reigning champion.
Yeah, Wisniewski to the race lead though. Yarshall tries to dip back under him coming through turn 4. They're going to be absolutely level in towards the next braking zone here. Fight between the race leaders here. This is not easy for Tim Yarshall, but I think he's just about able to find his way back through. No, there's still an overlap on the way in towards the middle sector.
Yeah, we've got 3 porkers at the sharp end here. Tim Yarshall just trying to hold on, trying to retake the lead of the position. I think he'll drive across the bonnet of the G2 car. He absolutely does. Make sure that he keeps hold of that spot up towards the final chicane and towards that Coca-Cola curve. But look at the overspeed here then from Wisniewski. Wisniewski's going to have to go the long way round. Can he force the issue into the chicane? He absolutely is. They do go through side by side. Is the room going to be left? It is going to be left, and well, it is a back out there from Wisniewski. Tim Yarshall to head up towards that final corner by the barest of margins, holds the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great fight for the race lead. I don't think it's quite done just yet, depending on if Wisniewski can size up and move down in towards the hairpin this time around. We're riding on board with Yuri Toman at the moment as Yarshall has to go defensive down into that first turn. Can Wisniewski get the up and under coming through here? It is a strategy that you can try to employ to try and get past through there, but Yarshall's able to cover it off quite well.
Yeah, the one positive here for the likes of Rietveld, the likes of Price, maybe Keithley as well, that all 3 cars at the front are exactly the same, so if they battle, it's going to be very difficult to find any kind of room to maneuver and make an overtake, thus causing each other to lose time, and then maybe an opportunity will present itself for an overtake. But as it stands, the front 2, albeit, you know, battling for that P1, have kind of found a little bit of a gap there to Yuri Toman. Yuri Toman kind of needs to get a bit of a move on here and try and stay as close to that rear wing as possible. Well, it's going to be a potential overtake here. Wisniewski completely runs deep on the exit of the sprint variant hairpin. And wow, Tim Yarshall's just been given a bit of a freebie. Half a second now, looking in his rearview mirror, thinking, thank you very much. Didn't expect that little present there, but he will absolutely keep hold of it.
Yeah, and well, he's hoping that the battle's happening in his wing mirrors rather than right next to his wing mirrors. Let's just say that. I mean, he's already had experience of it in the opening lap or 2 of this race. Now he's trying to run for the hills. Yuri Toman, of course, 3rd place here at the moment. We'll get a good look at him as he tries to at least find some form of opportunity to try and get past the Polish driver ahead, but it looks like things are a little bit of a stalemate on the way down into the braking zone this time around. Toman a little bit too far back to really be able to do anything. He's going to drag the brakes in to get as close as possible, but no chance to get any form of overlap.
Moritz Lohner, by the way, is just battling now with Leonard Kripner. P27 to P9. He was in P8. He's got a bit of an overlap there on Leonard Kripner. Can he find a movement? No, he cannot. He actually will have to sit in behind that Porsche. But up to P8 momentarily. What a start. 19 positions. We did see a bit of carnage, of course, but 19 positions. That is very, very good driving indeed. And, you know, if it is one of those weeks where the BMW just cannot get a result, it feels like that's the case. Just getting some half-decent points, 2 races in a row here, are absolutely vital. And this is the best way to start. Great moves from Moritz Lohner.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. E9 solidly, well, inside, getting the foothold inside the top 10, and when you consider, Luke, you mentioned that he didn't feel that the balance performance was going to go his way here. Well, he is, you know, one of the top BMWs. There is a BMW a little bit further up the road, though. That is Marko Pejic, who's the top place BMW at the moment in 7th place. So I'm amazed like how close everyone is, despite some drivers still complaining about the pop. Right? It's yeah, pretty crazy. You know, those tenths of a second differences really matter in a race like this.
Yeah, there's some action in the background here. Yeah, lovely job in terms of getting hold of it. You've got Lucas Muller, who is the lead car then of the group of 4. It's 3 wide there. You've got a Porsche sandwich and 2 Ferrari bits of bread. I'll tell you what, that is some move around the outside. That's Florian Hasser. Florian Hasser has just absolutely sent it from the back of that group of 4 to the lead of that group of 4. That was a delicious bit of move. Opportunistic, of course, it was 3 wide. Yeah, just sent it round the outside, and Lucas Muller got caught napping in it.
Yeah, great move. Great opportunistic move. That's what you like to see from drivers, you know, just be able to sit behind and wait for their moment, and sometimes that moment just kind of arrives and you take it, right? It's it's a great feeling when that happens, because you're like, well, they're focusing too much on each other, they're not expecting me to do this, and then you pass, you know, 2 or 3 of them in the same sequence of corners. It's a whole bunch of fun.
Yeah, it didn't lose any time either. It was a really nice move around the outside, and just went, oh, okay, cool, you're all going to break early? Yeah, copy.
Yeah.
Around the outside, cheers. Have a lovely day. Off he goes. It's, you know, clearly someone's offered him a free beer at the end of this race. He's trying to get there as quickly as he possibly can. We're looking on board then with Yuyovsky, who is in behind Enzo Benito, who is using all of the curb there like a prime Tony Hawk. Hopefully that'll help him get a better exit around the corner, but no one else is doing it, so I'm not sure it will. But yeah, he finds himself in P12, P11, Enzo Benito a bit further up. Then we've got Dominic Blyer, as we see a potential move a bit further back then. That is Alessandro Ottaviani and Gianmarco Fiducci. In the BMW, it is Fiducci. He now has the inside line for turn number 2. Wow, it is Italian warfare between them as we come through turn number 2. A little bit of argy-bargy, a little bit of my corner there. Now down towards number 3, and is Ottaviani going to keep the overlap? He does, in towards number 4, and he goes, thank you very much, I'll have a little bit of that. That was a lovely exchange between the two of them. The only problem there is they lost a bit of time to the group ahead.
Yeah, it's that's always the thing, isn't it? When everyone is so close like this, going side by side, you're just going to hemorrhage time to those cars ahead. So you kind of have to minimize how much time you're sort of in these prolonged battles, which is very, very tough to do at times, because, you know, you're all battling for the position in the end, you know, but you have to keep that big picture in mind. It's like, okay, I need to get this done clean, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to gain any more positions later on.
Yeah, do you see Erhan there giving a little light flash to Enzo? He's like, hi, I'm behind you. It's always nice when they say hello to each other on the racetrack. Oh, beautiful. Tim Marshall leads just by about a second to Nikodem Wisniewski, and lovely little gap to work with, and looking to make it 2 wins out of 3, and well, actually it'd be 2 wins and a P2 out of 3, so he would not have been beyond P2 in the first 3 rounds of the championship, and that becomes very difficult for anybody else to go around and beat if you continue that form. Nikodem Wisniewski then is second, just ahead of Yuri Toman, about 0.3 of a second separating our second and third place cars. Then we've got Jeffrey Rietveld, who's in 4th position in that number 69, nice. Then a few tenths of a second back, then it's Isaac Bryson, number 83. He's then followed by Jack Heatley. Saw them side by side, who genuinely think they were twins. You've then got Marco Pajic, the Mad Dog, in 7th, Leonard Krippner and Moritz Lohner. We've got 3 Germans there, all battling for 7th position. And then rounding out your top 10, it is Dominic Blyer. Enzo Benito is in 11th position ahead of Ethan, the Macedonian Yuyovsky in 12th. Alessandro Ottaviani, after having a battle with Gianmarco Fiducci, finds himself in 13th. Fiducci ultimately being in 14th now. Then we've got Mitchell in 15th. Marcel Shinchik, who was, you know, very highly up in the championship here. P6 overall coming into today, down in P16 as it stands. Then is the Hungarian. He has another Hungarian behind him of Gergo Boldi. Then got Christopher Hugveld, the sole Swede on the grid in 18th position. Then got our first Frenchman in Delorme in 19th. Julian Kunzer is in 20th. We then got Florian Hasser. We then have Emre Cihan, Lucas Muller, Isaac Gillison, Perenga in 25th, Vermeulen, Worley, Banky, Brzezinski and Carton as your 30 drivers. Looks like we've lost Kevin Siggy. I'm not sure exactly who else we've lost in this race, but I believe we've lost 2 of them. But as we head then a bit further up the grid, there is one of the twins, Jack Heatley.
Yeah, he's really trying to apply the pressure onto the back of Isaac Price, but he's really getting no success out of it for the moment. It's one of those frustrating things where you feel like you're getting kind of close enough to make that move in towards turn number 1, but you're just not feeling confident about it. It'll be a lunge from really far back if you were able to make that into a move, and it's so you decide against it, but that temptation is always in your mind to go for it potentially a little bit later on, where we're on the final 1 or 2 laps. Then maybe we might see some moves from a little bit further back than what we have seen so far. But yeah, Keithley is in an intriguing situation at the moment. He's the second highest placed Audi. The highest place is going to go to Jeffrey Rietveld in 4th place here at the moment. But of course, it does seem to be, with top 3 being Porsches, that it's definitely a Porsche circuit.
Yeah, Porky time for sure. The front three being all of the Porkers. They are doing a pretty good job, and yeah, they're all through the field, aren't they? In the sharp end. Audi and the Porsche look like the two stronger of the cars. Tim Yarshall, but it looks like the stronger of the drivers, though. 1.3 seconds, the advantage now. I would imagine he's giving a slight toe to Wisniewski, not to anything too crazy, but I think he's very much nearly out of that toe range and be able to then extend his lead even more so. But yeah, you mentioned them momentarily about whether they want to battle at this stage of the race. I think, you know, right now it's too late to be worried about positions too far up the road. I think you've got to try and get the positions there and now, so making moves is an absolute must. You're not going to go and win the race if you're someone like Isaac Price, if you're someone like Jack. You're not going to win the race now, are you? So you've got to try and make up as many positions as you possibly can. Jeffrey Rietveld, though, will make it very difficult indeed. But look at the gap now already formed between front three and Jeffrey. So yeah, Isaac has to look at that and think, yeah, we're not going to catch up to that front three. It's all about now trying to maximise the positions of this group, try and get ahead of this group, and try and chase down Jeffrey Rietveld. But that is a task in itself.
It really is. It's got 1.5 seconds over the rest of the field at the moment, and I don't see that closing in anytime soon. It's been a wonderful performance for Yarshall at the start of this sprint race. Of course, there's still just about less than 7 minutes of it to go, but he continues to have that quite healthy advantage at the front of the field, and to have that buffer is it allows you to be a little bit less tense about the situation. A lot of these drivers, when they talk about their fitness, when they talk about their physicality, when it comes to these sorts of races, because yes, there is physicality in sim racing, it's not in the way you think. It's removing that sort of tension, right? So if you're tense, your heart rate goes up, you're going to be more stressed. Yeah, getting rid of that tension, you're going to be more relaxed, you're going to be able to focus more. That is your sports psychology crash course, but it is all things that drivers work on.
Yeah, Connery, absolutely outstanding analysis there from you. Obviously leaning on all of your top-tier sim racing experience, just as I do in our commentary. Yeah, so take what we say with a pinch of salt, guys, or a bucket, to be honest. But no, you're right there. There's so much more to sim racing nowadays. Just being really, really fast, you've got to have your mind in the right place. You've got to surround yourself with the right people, have the right environment to thrive in as well. You know, you see a lot of the bigger teams just continuously do well, and it's very difficult for the smaller teams to break in because they just, you know, they don't have the resources behind them to create that environment, have the, you know, the people in terms of, you know, psychologically, you know, engineers, people that help coach. It's very difficult for the smaller teams to be able to break in like that. Again, Enzo taking that Tony Hawk line once again around the final corner, literally the only person doing it. Maybe he likes the feel of the rumble under the car, I don't know. Maybe a little bit too much information. But as it stands there, we've got 5 minutes left on the clock. Tim Yarshall just going faster and faster. 0.2 of a second a lap now. He is stretching out. Definitely has broken that tone. Wisniewski battling with Yuri Toman. Yuri Toman is close enough to actually pounce if he can find a little bit of gap to work with. Rietveld now a little bit further back. And this is perfect for Toman because he can afford 1 or 2 jabs now at Wisniewski for that second spot and won't really lose too much time in terms of Jeffrey Rietveld and then be under too much pressure. So expect to see these two Porsches battling for second spot.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We've entered a little bit of a lull in the race as drivers are sort of seemingly more content in running in their own positions rather than trying to improve them. But I get the feeling in these final couple of minutes, then well, all of that will change, and well, you get your last opportunities to try and improve position in this race. Got right on board here with Nikodem Wisniewski. Get the view into his sim rig as well, as we see that well, that's Porsche of Yuri Toman ever big in the rear view.
Yeah, it's getting just a bit bigger as well. And actually, Wisniewski ever so slightly runs deep into the corner. There you can see Yuri Toman taking a little bit of a tighter line, but it's worked out quite nice for Nikodem around that final corner. Again, very not the same lines through that final corner, just a slight difference between the two of them, but it seems to be working for both of them. We head then down towards turn number 1. You can see now as we get up towards the higher speeds, it's literally taking a bit more of an effect. And Yuri Toman isn't quite close enough to try and make any kind of moves there. Wisniewski, though, runs a little bit deep once again, and you can start to see here the pressure maybe starting to form.
Yeah, it's never comfortable. It's never comfortable, this situation, when you're in the final last couple of laps of the race and you have a car that's basically bearing down on you, right? It's definitely a very stressful situation. But of course, a lot of these drivers, well, all of these drivers are very, very experienced in what they do. So they would have come across this situation multiple times, hundreds of times potentially before. Should be at this point capable of dealing with it. However, you know, stakes are still pretty high, right? This is the DTM Esports Pro Championship. This is basically the top level of sim racing on RaceRoom. This is one of the biggest championships that these guys will potentially compete in. So you have all those factors coming in. It could potentially crack even the coolest of drivers.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more there. You know, these two are used to battling with each other at the sharp end of a grid. They both raced in the ESLR1 last year for the entirety of the 12-month period, and they were both right up the sharp end. Yuri Toman, of course, you know, battling for the championships. Nikodem Wisniewski with race wins, you know, on land and indeed from home as well. So they're both very capable. So it doesn't matter what platform they're on. They are just very, very good sim racers. They are, again, looking to try and battle for that second position. Belt under a bit of pressure from Isaac Price then. About to find out which one is the better of the brothers. You've got Isaac Price and Jack Easley. There's a gap between the two of them, but it's like later stages of this race, 1 minute 50 seconds to go, that Jeffrey Rietveld might be struggling ever so slightly. We've got one more lap to go after this one. Decide our first race results. Tim Marshall, though, is looking very, very good indeed.
Yeah, looking incredible. 1.9 seconds now, getting almost towards 2 seconds. In fact, it does click over the 2 second mark just as I speak. So he's just on a nice, you know, on a nice Friday evening drive without a care in the world, it seems like. Look, he's just on his own, out there in front. Wisniewski's not able to keep pace. Toman's not able to keep pace here at the moment, and it's the Tim Marshall show. What else can I say?
Yeah, no, he's done very, very well. And any questions coming into today about whether Tim Marshall was the real deal, whether, you know, Norrisring was a fluke per se, absolutely putting that all to bed right now. Currently leads, like you said, by about 2 seconds. He's about to start the final lap of today's race, and it looks like a formality. It looks like it will be a second win out of 3 for him. But look at the battle for P2 right now. Wisniewski is being challenged by Yuri Toman. So Yuri Toman tries to dive late there, now forcing Wisniewski offline. Wisniewski holds firm once again up towards turn number 2. No real gap to work with. Are we about to see Yuri Toman send it down the inside of the left-hander? Is he close enough here? Will Wisniewski defend early? It looks like he has defended early. And again, he doesn't want to get his wheels on the inside of that curb there. He's taking a very deliberate line in terms of just getting the tyres on the top of the curb. I guess meaning he can turn the car a little bit quicker. If you've got the 2 left wheels inside of that groove, it's very difficult to then rotate to the right-hand side. So you're kind of limited when you can turn for the next corner. So 2 completely different driving styles we're seeing here, both getting very similar results. 2.3 seconds to lead as we head in towards our final few corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Here comes Tim Marshall then. Well, it's been a pretty clean event so far. Whole position in qualifying by quite a margin. It seems like it's going to be a race win by quite a gap as well. What a performance, Luke.
Yeah, he's done very, very well, has Tim Marshall. It was a race win last time out when we were at the Nürburgring, and it was a P2. It started off with a P2, and well, since then he hasn't really looked back. Around that final corner, Tim Marshall will go, and the superstardom absolutely continues because it is a race victory here at the Nürburgring. Well, it looks like it's also going to be the best lap of the race as well. But there are your official results coming in. Wisniewski does just about hang on. Yuri Toman takes third position. Then we've got Rietveld. Isaac Price gets a top 5. Keithley takes P6 and P6. There's 2 of them. He's so good. Then we've got Marco Pajic, Leonard Krippner, and Moritz Lohner as your top 9. But the day belongs to Tim Marshall once again. And tell you what, not that much emotion on his face there. You know, I expect after the second race there might be a fist bump, but he's already thinking, oh, there he is, looking at the camera now. Just stare me down. All right, Tim. Just stared into my soulmate. Chill out, will you? Crikey. Didn't mean it. Bloody hell. But, yeah, Tim Marshall, cool as a cucumber, ladies and gentlemen, and that will be an extension of his lead. Dominic Blyer will take the top 10 position, or the final spot in the top 10. We then got Enzo Benito in 11th, Erhan Yayovsky in 12th, Ottaviani 13th, 14th for Fiducci. They've got Mitchell in 15th, Chinchik 16th, Boldy 17th, 18th then for Hugveld. Delorme takes top 19 position there. Then we have Emre Chihan, Florian Hasser, Lucas Muller. We've then got Ralph Puringer. We've got Isaac Gillison, Julian Kunzer, Axel Vermeulen. We then have Jakub Brzezinski, Ben Spanky, and Leandro Uerle as your top 29. And then we've got Carton, and Kevin Siggy, unfortunately, is a DNF in race number 1. Oh, Connery, Tim Yarshall. Oh, what a performance. That is, people, there would have been some people going, can Tim Yarshall do it on a round to round basis? Was the Norris ring a bit of a fluke? I've seen him competing at the very top end of sim racing and maybe just be at that second level, not quite that elite level. Last week he announced himself there. Oh boy, has he proved it and backed it up today?
Yeah, I think he has as well. There's really no doubts as to what his pace is going to be throughout this competition now, especially with that particular performance. Of course, we do have another qualifying session to go, and of course, we have all the intrigue and the strategy of a slightly longer race with a mandatory pit stop as well, which can upset things because even then, 2 seconds is not entirely safe from someone trying to pull some shenanigans in the pit stop. So this definitely isn't signed, sealed, and delivered for Tim Yarshall just yet, but he is in a very good position.
Yeah, and I've got a spreadsheet here where I keep the results. If you're watching my broadcast yesterday, guys, you'll know that I'm very good at making spreadsheets in a long period of time. But the good news here for Tim Yarshall is that the 2 drivers finishing directly behind him, Yuri Toman isn't even in the top 16 in the championship, and Nikodem Wisniewski is 1 position ahead of him. So they are both not really in the sharp end of the championship as well. So that is huge for Yarshall. He's going to be extending his lead massively. It's obviously good news for Yuri Toman and Nikodem Wisniewski to get some points on the board. Jeffrey Rietveld, he's currently in 8th position in the championship, so that will help him out. But yeah, it just seems like nobody in this championship yet has really been or been able to be consistent, apart from the 1 driver, Tim Yarshall.
I mean, you put it exactly how I would put it, Luke. He's definitely been the most consistent so far. Of course, we do have an incredibly small sample size with 3 races, but once we get towards that midpoint of the season, we'll have a bit of a better idea. But this season could not have gone any better, really, for Tim Yarshall than it has gone right now. Hopefully, I'm not giving him the curse of the commentator coming into the second race.
No, of course, we don't want to do that to anybody. But maybe you're sat at home and you're thinking, well, I fancy a crack at these cars. I fancy a crack at these tracks. Well, you can go and buy the DTM 2023 pack right now on RaceRoom and also the tracks that we're seeing them race on. But if you want to have your appetite whetted even more, there's a little video to showcase what you can buy. There you have it then. Lots of sexy cars you can go out there and indeed buy. But let's check out the calendar for the rest of the season. And of course, we have already had round 1. That was a Norris ring last time out. By the way, it is the Ring of Championships, the Championship of Rings. So Norris ring done. Nürburgring, we're halfway through. So we've had our 20-minute race. The next race will be a 8-minute qualifying session, so a little bit shorter than what we had previously. And then we head into a 30-minute time race with a mandatory pit stop now. So it gets a little bit spicy in terms of strategy. Next week, then we head to the Lausitz Ring, which is a very impressive place to race. Again, I forgot to ask the question whether it's going to be the oval turn 1 or the chicane turn 1. So I maybe should ask that question. Or maybe, Chris, if you're watching right now, you could maybe, I don't know, tag me and let me know. That'd be great. Sachsen Ring will be round 4. After a little break, we head into April the 5th, and that will be the Sachsen Ring. Then we head to round number 5, which will be at the Red Bull Ring, which indeed will be on the 12th of April. And then the 19th of April, it will be round 6 at the Hockenheim Ring to finalize our championship that's currently being destroyed by Tim Yarshall. Again, what a special performance it has been from him so far. As it stands, Connery, it's 2 wins and a P2 from 3 races, and that is championship form if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. And I'm excited to see how his how the performance is going to be in the future races of this season. Of course, you know, we have a decent variety up on screen at the moment, you know, of different types of circuits. So it really does test the driver's skills, not just on one sort of sub-discipline of circuit, shall we say. So again, it's going to be difficult to try and carry that momentum throughout this season, but these guys know what they're doing, right? They're going to be able to get their sights set and be able to put in the best performance they can do on every single circuit that we have out there.
I momentarily mentioned about, or I briefly mentioned about the, you know, Tim performing well and then everybody else around him not really picking up results. Let's check out the standings just before, well, we've got practice here, but let's check out the standings quickly just so I can show you exactly what I mean by that. Sorry, Connor, I didn't realize you're going to go into the server quite so quickly, but there we have it. So Tim Yarshall, of course, leading the championship. He goes out and wins again. But look at who's around him in terms of points. Moritz Lohner, 52 points, but he finished down at P9. Gianmarco Fiducci was battling a little bit further behind that. Kevin Siggy, DNF. Ben Spanky was behind all of them. Erhan Yayovsky was battling for a top 10 with Enzo Benita. Marcel Shinshik, he was obviously battling at the sharp end, wasn't he? He was trying, he ended up down the back end, didn't he? He ended up down in like 16th position. Then we've got Jeffrey Rietveld, who's 8th in the championship. He's currently, 35 points behind, and he was in 4th position. Otto Viani, Jacob Brzezinski, all of these drivers just not picking up the big points. And then we get to the drivers who were finishing, you know, on the podium spots there. Nikodem Wisniewski, he's 16th in the championship. So, yeah, it's a big day for Tim Yarshall because not only is he performing, but everyone else around him just aren't really finding their pace. And if he can continue to be strong and, you know, I'm even going to go as far to say if he can just now knock off top 5 for the rest of the season, I find it very difficult that anybody can beat him.
Yeah, I think so too. We do have to be careful about speaking so soon. Of course, you know, these championships can be very strange things sometimes, where a driver will be on form for the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then all of a sudden towards the back end of the season they drop off in terms of performance. So we do have to be a little bit careful with that one. But Yarshall in particular is doing the best that he can to put himself in what is one of the best positions I've seen a driver inside the first couple of events of the season. So, of course, that comes with its own problems potentially. You could potentially get complacent with that, right? Some drivers might. They might say, "Oh, I'm so far ahead in the championship that I don't need to put as much practice in for these next couple of rounds." That's not the attitude that you have to take. You have to be on it, absolutely on it, especially with fields as close as this one.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Right, out to qualifying we go then. So, just under the 8-minute mark left to go of this session. And will Tim Yarshall go out there and get yet another pole position on board of Moritz Lohner? If you are watching over on DTM's YouTube, or if you're watching over on my channel, get yourselves involved in the chat, guys. Let me know who you're watching or supporting. Always good to see people watching from around the world. So, Moritz Lohner. Big race for Moritz. Obviously, he's being a DTM Esports champion. Lovely moustache on him, by the way. This is a big race for him. I think he needs to go big points. Otherwise, it would be, not the most ideal start to his championship.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Not ideal. Recoverable, yes, but it has to start here. It has to start with this particular race. Otherwise, he's going to be falling a little bit too far behind compared to Yarshall coming into the middle part of the season. But let's have a look at his initial lap time heading his way across the line route about now, as it will pop up. It's not the best. It's 125 flat. The fastest drivers have been in the low 124s, so maybe just a little bit of a banker lap for Lohner to potentially build off of.
Kevin Siggy did not finish the first race. He is currently pole position for the second. Nikodem Wisniewski then 0.02 of a second off the pace then as Tim Yarshall is about to set his flying lap. His banker time, of course, pole position last time out and race winner. Championship leader across the line then for him, and it is pole position again. Well, it is a 24.5. Once again, 900ths clear of Kevin Siggy. Enzo Benito now into 3rd spot.
Benito doing well, at least so far in this qualifying session. He's going to head his way outside the final corner. This is not a lap, so he'll end up starting a flying lap here in that Team Redline Audi. Third place at the moment, not too bad. 10th of a second behind the provisional pole position, setting time of Tim Yarshall. A couple of drivers setting personal best in the back half of the field here. Moritz Lohner being one of them. Goes about 2.5 tenths of a second faster in through Sector 1 as he did on his previous lap. So this is looking like a better lap already for Lohner. Let's see what the Sector 2 time will come through as. Of course, we're not expecting miracles from the BMW here, but another personal best for Hull.
Yeah, right now he's on course to be around about 13th position, so he's not going to be happy with this. That is for certain. It has to be an absolute flyer of a final sector to really break in anywhere near that top 10. So around the final corner we will go. And he's got to be looking at Marco Pajic here, really, as a minimum time to hit. As Moritz Lohner goes up to P15. Jack Easley moved up into 6th position. But yeah, Moritz, has to look at being the best BMW, realistically, after his performances last time out. He was that quick at Nürburgring. We're on board with Marcel Schinchik, who is coming around the final corner. Yet to put a lap time in, so this will be a first banker time. Only 4 minutes left on the clock, so a little bit more pressure on these drivers, considering there's 2 minutes left less in this session. That's a potential, 1, maybe 2 attempts less. Tim Yarshall about to go across the lines. He's gone faster again. He has 1.5 tenths of a second faster than Kevin Siggy. And Tim Yarshall is taking this championship by storm, isn't he?
It was a 24.365. The only driver, there's the only driver in the 3s. There's no other driver in the 4s, and next closest is Siggy in the 24.5. That is absolutely crazy stuff from Tim Yarshall. He's found something here that the other drivers have yet to figure out, especially, of course, the Porsche drivers that he shares a manufacturer with, I suppose. Some of the drivers might even be looking at that time just going, how has he done that? And we're talking about drivers that are as experienced at RaceRoom as you're gonna get. So, yeah, that's scary when you see lap times like that being set.
Yeah, that's a massive margin. 1.5 tenths to me is not big, but in this level, absolutely ridiculous. As we watching Lucas Muller come around the final corner, looks like he's going faster than he has been before, and he needs to have again a bit of a flyer over final sector to improve too many positions, and it's not an improvement. So 14th position, then the best for Lucas Muller, and he's got 2 minutes 50 seconds to go. So maybe, just maybe, 2 laps. It's going to be really, really tight. No, it won't be enough for 2 laps. So final attempt for Lucas Muller.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not going to be able to get a chance after this one. Can maybe abandon it, maybe part way through and still get back around to start a flying lap with enough time remaining. But time is of the essence at this point. Wisniewski setting personal best sector times at the moment as he heads his way in towards the final corner, but it's going to have to be a massive gain through this final sector to really upset the order at the top of the field. Yarshall's time looking very, very strong at this stage, although Wisniewski does get one over Enzo Benito.
Yeah, he certainly does, up to 3rd position then for the Polish driver. The G2 Esports, Emre Cihan's just moved up over 10 spots. He's up to 11th position with 1 minute 56 seconds left to go. Everybody should, if they reset now, get one more opportunity to go faster. Leon Rudiger, by the way, has just got 2 red sectors, so he's not going faster, down in 24th position. As Marco Pajic is about to go across the line, does he find any improvement? Well, he does, but it is not enough to improve. Still 5 thousandths of a second from Alessandro Ottaviani, and they were teammates actually, I think, for a little bit, weren't they? Marco Pajic and Ottaviani. They've been, see Ottaviani not be a teammate no longer, be a little bit up ahead of Pajic. It might be quite nice for Ottaviani.
Yeah, it could be. Dominic Blyer, though, across the line in the latter end of the session, goes up P6. So just behind his compatriot of Brzezinski and up in 5th place there. So great job from Dominic Blyer to make it to make it up in towards that position. Obviously, he's very, very capable indeed. But you can see how close the mid pack of this field is. It is absolutely insane. Yarshall is kind of a little bit like an outlier at the front of the field at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'd say one significant point to make about Dominic Blyer is he's right behind his old teammate in Jacob Brzezinski. So that will be a very spicy battle. I'm sure Blyer will want to get one over on Jacob Brzezinski, as much as they're obviously friends, right? They race for the same team. Just because a driver's move doesn't mean they instantly become the worst of enemies, but it'll be a fun little battle between Blyer and Brzezinski. They've also got Wisniewski a little bit further up as well, who's also left Williams to go to G2. So there's nice little stories forming here. You've got a couple of red line cars and Enzo Benito and Kevin Siggy right up the sharp end here in that top 4. But it is Tim Yarshall once again, the big dog. We will say now. He's actually gone faster again. He's now, what, 1700ths ahead. It's nearly 0.2 of a second clear of absolutely everybody. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous lap time there from Tim Yarshall, and just showcasing exactly why he is the leader of the championship. Sensational stuff from Tim.
Yeah, there's no other words for it. It looks like a small gap in your normal ranked races, in your normal, races that you would just do on multiplayer. A 0.171 gap in the interqualifying is very close, and for most people it is very close. However, for these guys, that is a mile. That is an absolute mile, considering we at one point had 6 drivers inside of 1/10 of a second, and yet Yarshall has gone over 1.5 tenths faster than the next driver. It's crazy.
Yeah, and of course there's a prize pool for the Drivers' Championship, but there's also a prize for the pole winner of the season, the most pole positions, and Tim Yarshall right now has 3. Moritz Lohner has 1, so he's already 2 clear. But let's get the classification from qualifying. Then Tim Yarshall is in P1. Kevin Siggy starts on the front row in P2. Then we've got Nikodem Wisniewski in 3rd. Benzo Benito in 4th position. Jacob Brzezinski is in 5th. And I think there's an interesting dynamic there. You've got 2 G2 cars versus 2 red line cars. So I'm sure they're going to work together to try and indeed beat the other team. Tim Yarshall for the Falcon Sim Racing team just on his own up there, and well, he's not really needed anybody else the way he's been driving. You've got Dominic Blyer for Williams Esports. Again, he's got the dynamic of 2 ex-Williams drivers right ahead of him. And we've got Ethan Yayovsky with Marcel Shinchik, another couple of teammates for R8G. Then you've got the final Team Redline driver of Jeffrey Reedler in 9th, Jack Heathley for Williams Esports. Can he move up towards Dominic Blyer and help him out? But everybody's kind of got someone to work with or look for as a teammate, apart from one. But again, it doesn't really matter for Tim Yarshall. He doesn't seem to need anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's never really met a situation where having a teammate up the front of the field would be helpful, because he's just sort of waltzed away and no one's been able to catch him. Of course, the same situation applies here as what I mentioned at the start of race 1, in which case the most dangerous part of this race for Yarshall is going to be at the start. Okay, he absolutely needs to nail these starts. He had a protracted side-by-side battle on the first lap of race 1. He was able to win that one. However, he needs to do the same here today. If he doesn't lead coming out of the first corner, and if he's side-by-side or God forbid behind someone, then obviously we have much more of a race on our hands.
Yeah, and he didn't get a particularly great start in the first race, so let's see how it goes this time round. We've got all of our cars on the grid. There's 5 red lights on the top left-hand side of your screen. We're about to indeed go green light racing, and there we go. We are off and ready to rumble, and it's a pretty good start, I think, there from Tim Yarshall. Moves across there, actually, to try and defend from Kevin Siggy, but Kevin Siggy has managed to get the lead of this race then. As we head down towards turn number 1, we're seeing a bit of a dive, actually, from the inside of Enzo Benito, isn't it? Enzo Benito looking to try and get up to 3rd position, and he's being covered off there by Nikodem Wisniewski, the Porsche on the inside of turn number 2. I think Enzo's going to have to live to fight another day here, unless he can try and get underneath down towards 3 and have that overlap down in towards turn number 4. He's not quite close enough, has to back out of position, but it is a lead car for Redline this time round. Kevin Siggy by 0.3 of a second, and for the first time, Tim Yarshall under a little bit of pressure this week.
Yeah, absolutely doesn't lead coming out of the first sector. So now this is a completely different dynamic to what we had in race number 1. It's Yarshall now on the back foot a little bit here. He's the one that now has to try and make the pass over Siggy to get back up into that race lead. Yes, he has all of the time in the world to be able to do so. He can play some form of strategy in the pit stop as well to try and get ahead, but so can every other driver. That's the interesting thing about these sorts of races. And now, I guess we can officially say that this race is going to be much more interesting than race 1.
Yeah, 100%. But remember, Tim Yarshall, again, if you'd offered him a P1 and a P2, yeah, would he be too worried about it at the start of the day? Probably not. Like, it's, again, a really, really good day for his championship hopes. Look at the drivers around him. None of those drivers were really challenging for his championship lead coming from Nürburgring. All of those drivers are struggling. By the way, Moritz Lohner up to P8. I don't know what he's doing at the start of these races, but it's witchcraft, as he actually is going to lose a position there to Marcel Shinchik. Isaac Price now just in behind him as well, but Moritz Lohner outside the top 20 again, managing to get himself up into the top 10 within a lap.
Yeah, crazy performance on the start of these races. Down towards the inside, Chinchik again. There's a little bit of contact between the two of them as they swing towards turn 4. Moritz Lohner on the outside as Chinchik just cuts across the nose and keeps himself ahead, battling behind between Tobin and Price as well. That potentially will factor in. In fact, Price is trying to go over the long way around on Lohner.
Yeah, he has the inside line though for the next corner, but now he's under pressure from Yuri Toman. So Yuri Toman sweeps around the outside. So the RAG cars all sort of working together here. Box Moritz in. They'll also gave Yuri Toman a chance to make up some spots. Although if you look a little bit further back, Alessandro Ottaviani has really lost out there, in all fairness. He's now battling with Marco Pajic, the Mad Dog, trying to lead his teammate through, which is Gianmarco Fiducci, both in the Veloce cars, trying to make it up towards that top 10. But they are being scuppered by that Alessandro Ottaviani. Got Isaac Gillison, who is, I believe, like still a part of Veloce, but he's a Ferrari esports driver now, so there's maybe they can work together in that group there. But yeah, it's almost like a Veloce versus RAG, a sprinkling of G2 esports and Mouse in there.
Yeah. It's well, all the flavors of the rainbow, I suppose, as we see these guys head their way through the first 2 corners. Yuri Toman definitely locked onto the back of the Mouse car. Moritz Lohner very threatening at this stage. Of course, it's Porsche versus BMW here, as you can see that BMW just not really getting the mid-corner speed through the slow speed sort of arena section, or rather the end of the arena section, and that Porsche just handles so much better. It seems like coming through there and is able to basically just lean on the back bumper, but no way through at the moment for Toman, but I wouldn't bet against him.
Yeah, with all the buggering about they've done in this mid-pack here, the front group has just decided to drive away. There's a bit of a gap to work with now. Marcel Chinchik's the last driver, sorry, Jeffrey Rietveld is the last driver of that top 7. But look how close they all are. As they come through the chicane, we get a lovely shot there, actually, of the drivers a little bit ahead of this group. Kevin Siggy leads now by 0.4 of a second. Clear air seemingly being, the name of the game around the Nürburgring sprint circuit, because he is extending that lead. Obviously, Tim Yarshall down towards the hairpin of turn number 1 will close that gap just because of the nature of the slipstream. Kevin managing it perfectly, but these two are driving away from Nikodem Wisniewski. So Wisniewski not really being able to hang here, and is there an opportunity for the Italian Enzo Benito to move up into a podium position? The gaps then formed a little bit back between Enzo and indeed Jakub Brzezinski. Jack Heatley hanging on to Brzezinski with Jeffrey Rietveld then in 7th position. Then there's a bit of a gap at 2.3 seconds back to Marcel Chinchik. We then got Moritz Lohner, Yuri Toman, as your top 10. Isaac Price, Dominic Blyer, Isaac Gillison, Ottaviani and Marco Pajic, your top 15. We've got Fiducci, Werle, Hasser, Vermeulen and Rudiger as your top 20. On board then with Enzo Benito. Well, just keeping that front 3 at arm's length as it stands, and maybe an opportunity to work strategy to try and gain some positions that way. We saw that work at the Nürburgring perfectly well. The longer you stayed out, effectively, the higher you ended up.
Yeah, that felt like the case. I think that was really a it's really specific, shall I say. I was trying to find a word, but that's why I wasn't able to. But that was really specific to the Nürburgring potentially here, because of course he had to deal with so much more traffic at a circuit that is so short, and it's much harder to get your way through on someone at the Nürburgring compared to the Nürburgring. So we could have that be less of a factor here potentially. We'll just have to wait and see. Of course, drivers will always be looking at, okay, where would I come out in this entire field if I pitted now? Okay, would I come out in a train as battling, or am I going to come out in clear air? Of course, everyone would prefer to come out in clear air in this set of circumstances. So it's really sort of making sure that you're able to time that right.
Yeah, 100%. The lead group tend to stay out. They don't really need to change things up. They don't have to do anything too crazy. They're in the lead. Ultimately, they're in a good position. But the drivers in the mid-pack try and make something happen and try and change things up in that regard. And then that's where the lead group can then find themselves in a little bit of trouble if there's a couple of cars in the second group that maybe catch up a couple of seconds once they've pit. They've got fresher tyres on. Then they can find themselves behind that traffic later in the race. But yeah, right now the lead group, the lead sort of 7 cars here aren't going to be too worried about pit stops 23 minutes left to go in this race. They're doing a very good job indeed. Kevin Siggy pulling Tim Yarshall along, making that gap a little bit bigger to Wisniewski. Enzo Benito maybe just struggling to keep there with Nicodem a little bit further up, and has to be careful as he again takes that very aggressive line on the outside of the corner to open up the final corner. But he's again the only driver to do so.
Yeah, he's not getting the best of results out of it at the moment. It's not giving him the run required down the pit straight to be able to even get close. And in fact, he is slowly but surely dropping off the back of Nicodem Wisniewski at the moment and getting healing. So he does have to be careful. Brzezinski, Keithley, Rietveld, Tunchik, they're all drivers that would be very, very capable and perhaps optimistic of a car falling back into their clutches.
Yeah. What we see so far today is almost you've got to wait for a mistake. It's very difficult to make that overtake, and you lose so much time. Right now is a top 7 a good result? Probably. I'm not sure anyone's going to be too worried about that in the front group. Seeing Tim Yarshall continually perform, like he is, second position will more and more likely become the position they're chasing in this championship, because if he keeps coming first and second, it's almost impossible for anyone to really do anything about it. But Kevin is doing his best. But again, it's another story where Tim Yarshall's being consistent and big results. Although Kevin's winning this race and gaining points on Tim, he had a DNF in race number 1. So it's not really a championship rival. So Tim Yarshall's just got he's just playing, all of his own cards right now and getting aces every single time.
That's certainly what it feels like. Of course, has been put into a little bit more of an intriguing situation in this race 2 compared to race 1, where he was able to waltz away at the front of the field and win by 2 seconds. It's going to be a little bit of a tougher time to take the win, at least, for Yarshall at the moment. But like you said, he would also be super happy with the second place here. He knows how far ahead he is with the championship. Anything that extends that advantage is going to be useful, and taking the second place would absolutely do that. So I don't think there's any sort of pressure on Tim Yarshall to try and get up into the race lead at the moment. It's just a case of he might get round to it at some point,
What's happened to Dominic Blyer and Isaac Price? Are they in the pits? They might be in the pits here. Ottaviani as well. I think Isaac Price, Leandro Worley, I think they've all decided to come into the pits. Pit window is open, so they've decided to come into the pits really early in this race. And there you go. You can see exactly what's happening. Kunze is the first driver to successfully negotiate the pits. You can see there he's got a number 1 by his name, so that means he's good and golden. But the lead driver in terms of drivers who pit and with a lot of clear air is Isaac Price. Isaac Price is going to drag Dominic Blyer along, and then they've got Alessandro Ottaviani just in behind in that R8G car. So now we're about to see whether strategy will have an effect, whether they will gain positions. They were quite far off the lead group, so don't expect them to be challenging the top 7, but they've tried something. That's all you can really ask.
Yeah, that's really the only thing you can do in this situation is, if you are a driver, perhaps solidly mid-pack, maybe towards the back of the field, you might as well go for the off strategy. You never know whether it might work, because you either have a guaranteed position of not finishing that well, actually, if you go with a regular strategy, or you might take the gamble and maybe come down a bit earlier, try and get some clean laps in. Maybe you might gain 1 position, and 1 position could mean all the difference.
It certainly can. Back up the leaders, by the way. Kevin Siggy is now 1.1 second ahead of Tim Yarshall. So I wonder if Tim might have made a little bit of a mistake. Yeah, because he's a little bit closer to Wisniewski than he was prior to us going off this group. Yes, he is. So Wisniewski now getting dragged along. Kevin Siggy looking in his rearview mirror thinking, this is nice. I like this. A little bit better than what we had in race number 1. Wisniewski will now look to try and chase Yarshall down and make a position up. Wonder if there is the opportunity to get fruity with his strategy and make a call, and ultimately can maybe try and jump in within that pit lane, or is he going to try and get it done on track? You've got Enzo Benito, that we're hoping that both drivers in front make a little bit of an error, thus being able to catch up a bit closer. Jacob Brzezinski now in 5th position with Keithley and Rietveld. So your front 7 are still, front 7, although Rietveld has decided to bring it into the pit by the looks of things. And Nicodem Wisniewski has also decided to come into the pit. So they are going to try something. Early pit stop, giving them, of course, the real fresher tyres in terms of the first couple of laps. But at the end of the race, they might be sitting ducks. So it won't be a crazy amount of degradation, but it will be a little bit more so than other drivers who've waited a little bit longer to pit. So we're on board here with Bence Banky. Bence Banky looking to or Leonard Krippner, should I say, a little bit further back then. Ben Spanky and Bringer having a little bit of a ding-dong through turn number 1. See the position changes there. Bringer is going to lose out to Ben Spanky. Spanky has that inside line for turn number 2, and he is going to overtake the BMW with a BMW. Battles all over the track right now. As it stands, the lead driver from the pitted drivers, it will be Wisniewski. I think Rietveld will be in second position. And I think Jeffrey might have a bit of a gap here between him and Nicodem of clear air that he can push in towards, thus maybe gaining a couple of positions. Keep an eye out on Jeffrey Rietveld. He was 7th when he came in. I wonder whether he might be able to gain a couple of positions by having that clear air in front of him now, once everybody's decided to come down pit lane.
He has the benefit of being able to run his own lines, not having to worry about target fixation on a car ahead of him, because that's sometimes what happens, you know, especially if you've spent a long time behind someone. You just sort of follow their rear bumper and then you end up driving the same way they drive, and then, you know, you end up potentially losing a little bit of pace, and then you lose a little bit of tension, and all of a sudden that can really come to a head with a surprise incident. But, you know, shaking things up, coming down in, getting that clear air so you can focus on your own lap times rather than the lap times of the guy ahead of you, that is ultimately going to be beneficial. As we have more visitors on towards pit lane here, Luke. We have Brzezinski and Keithley in. And same with Lohner.
And Moritz Lohner. Yeah, Moritz Lohner in as well, as we're seeing some inter-team pitting there. Congratulations on your baby cars being born in 9 months' time. But there's Moritz Lohner's mouse car, number 20, about to be dropped down onto its wheels as we come around the final corner. I don't think any of those cars are really going to have an effect on the lead group here. I think these two should get clear. As you can see, they are coming out through the left-hand side of your screen. There is Moritz Lohner, but there's 3 cars ahead of him that are coming out. So we are on board with Jack Keithley. I'll tell you what, no, it has had a big effect here, hasn't it? Jeffrey Rietveld filters in behind. So yeah, not able to make anything up there. And it's just going to be frustration then for the Dutchman. Unfortunately, Rietveld just filters in behind Jack Keithley.
It did. So strategy affecting things already in this race. We are yet to see. Well, we've seen the majority of the field already down towards the pit lane, but the front 13 on the left-hand side of your screen right now, they have decided. Those are the guys that have not quite decided to pit just yet. Although, speak of the devil, Yarshel is in. Shinshik stays out, so does Siggy. Yeah,
it's Enzo Benito and Tim Yarshel that come in. I think the biggest factor from all of this was the gap went up to 2 seconds between Siggy and Yarshel. I'm wondering whether that might be because Tim had already taken the pit entry and he was already slower. I don't know. But, yeah, Siggy had pulled that gap out, and he's effectively with Marcel Shinshik, like, realistically, out of the league group, Kevin Siggy's the only driver that's still out there. And he will wait as long as he possibly can with that 2-second buffer. I'm not sure he even needs to come in on this next lap. I think he probably will. He'll split this race into half. But yeah, he can wait until everybody's pit, knowing he'll come out then with all that clear air, and the job is done.
Here comes Wisniewski. Of course, going to end up coming through behind Yarshel. There we go. I mean, that one is to be expected. Maybe a little bit closer than we first thought, but Yarshel would just be happy that he was able to squeak ahead of Wisniewski there, instead of getting the awkward situation of being trapped behind.
Yeah, the gap not a lot different, is it, to what it was? I think Wisniewski might have been a little bit closer. Maybe Yarshel's gained half a tenth, nothing crazy. Luca over on the DTM YouTube page saying cheers from Mexico. Welcome. Hopefully you're enjoying what you're watching today. Here we go. It is the race leader who comes into the pits, and Kevin Siggy's in, so that means Marcel Shinshik will effectively take the lead of this race. He won't have the net lead. It will be Yuri Toman that goes up to second. Fiducci will go up to third. Hasser in fourth. Kevin Siggy in relation to Tim Yarshel. So there's Yarshel. We're seeing him come up towards that final chicane. He's dragging Nikodem Wisniewski with him. The gap was 2 seconds once he came into the pit. So I find it very difficult to believe that Yarshel would have gained any of that time in the 2 laps that Kevin Siggy has stayed out. We're about to see that Audi drop down, and he'll be under that pit limiter, of course. So it will feel like he's going so slowly. But now we can turn that pit limiter off. We can get up to full speed. By the time we come down towards turn number 1, the gap may have just about come down here. By the time they get up towards turn number 1 in the braking zone, I think the gap might be a little bit smaller. It is. It is a lot smaller, actually. So Tim Yarshel was gained in this little exchange of pit stops. And Kevin Siggy still leads the race though, so I'm not sure he's going to be too bothered about the gap coming down. But yeah, the net lead of this race is Kevin Siggy, although there's still 8 cars yet to come through.
Absolutely. So Siggy with being able to come out ahead in that pit stop, obviously the ideal situation. Now the potential pass has to be done on track, not inside of the strategy window. So we'll have to see how this one turns out. It seems like drivers have either been reluctant to get the side-by-side action going, or potentially the Nürburgring not quite as fruitful for overtaking as we thought. We never thought it would be amazing, but I think we thought we would see a little bit more than we've seen already.
Yeah, Tim Yarshall doesn't need to. Like, I think you offered him a P1, P2, like I said earlier. He's like, yep, cheers, thank you, off we go, move on to the next time round at the RaceRoom. For everyone else, they kind of have to battle here. Again, you see Kevin Siggy taking that line, what Enzo's taking, so it looks like it's very much just a red line being taken towards that final corner. This is the group that are leading this race. Florian Hasse currently 4th position. He's in behind Fiducci, Toman and Shinshik. We've got Emre Cihan in that Ford Zilla car in 5th position. We've then got Bent Spanky, who's 1 position back there in the Esports car. We've then got Ralph Peringa, and we've got Leonard Krippner. So that is your top 8 as it stands. They have yet to pit, and they will not be in the lead once they do indeed pit, unless there's 7 cars out in front that all decide to implode.
It's been quite a relaxing affair so far. Of course, we are following these storylines as they go through. Here's Leonard Krippner, who's trying to lock onto the back of Ralph Peringa. And of course, like you already mentioned, Luke, these guys have yet to make their mandatory visit on towards the safety of pit lane. That's exactly what Peringa is going to do, but Krippner actually decided to stay out at least one more lap.
Yeah, Florian Hasse also brings the current of pits, meaning there's still 6 cars yet to come in with just about 11 minutes to go. Again, probably best that we have a little look-see at Kevin Siggy and Tim Yarshall, because that gap looks like it might have come down a little bit as well. So I'm wondering if Tim Yarshall saves something here for the end of this race. Look at this. This is close now for the race victory. Again, taking that really wide entry line into that final corner. Not going to take the lead. They're still going to have 6 cars ahead of them yet to come and change their tyres and do their pit stop. But the gap is very close between them. Nikodem Wisniewski may be struggling to keep pace with the front 2 as it stands. But yes, definitely the biggest winner out of the pit stop phase was Tim Yarshall. Is there an opportunity now for him to make an overtake? He doesn't need to, but what a statement it would be to win 2 races today. But not only do that, overtake our reigning champion in the process.
Yeah, it would be an incredible feat. An absolutely incredible feat, and I mean, I've said so many times already about the caliber of this field. You know, you put any one of these guys in an official ranked session, they'd probably win it, right? In this case, that is far from the truth. You have to be able to get that, those extra 1/10 of a second, those extra 100ths of a second per lap to really be competitive here in the DTM Esports Championship, and anything less than that sort of commitment, well, you're going to be languishing down in mid-pack and the back.
They're just so consistent. Like the lap times they can produce is, I can't comprehend it. My brain isn't fast enough, unfortunately, to comprehend what they're doing. But it's all good doing it once. They're doing it every single lap, time and time again. And I watch fast sim races. That could be my living for a long time now. And when they make a mistake, to me, it is just so minimal. But to them, it's like, oh, that's ruined. Lap day ruined. Weekend over. Like, they are so meticulous in their preparation that they expect to be putting 10, 15, 30, 60, 100, whatever the number is, perfect laps together. That's the difference between sim racing and the real world motorsport. You can literally do hundreds upon hundreds of laps of practice. We see a potential move being made up the inside here. There's Fiducci, Marco Pajic on the inside there of Isaac Gillison. And I tell you what, Alessandro Ottaviani fancies a bit of cake at this party. Looking for a move then in towards turn number 2. Gillison keeps that Ferrari though, tight onto the apex. Not able to really find any room, although he sends one up the inside of turn number 3. No love lost between the, I guess, group of Veloce drivers. They were teammates, all of these, merely a couple of months ago. And well, it's Marco Pajic that really does the best out of that situation. The biggest loser out of that really is Ottaviani. They've got one more to join the party, and that's Fiducci. So again, a couple of months ago, you would have had all of these running under the same livery. Right now, we have got 3 different teams racing against each other.
tough in this race so far. 4 drivers yet to head their way down towards pit lane, although I just say that they are now down and in. So the final pit stops of this event are currently underway. So Marcel Chinchik, Yuri Toman, Ben Spanky, Leonard Gribner, the drivers to come down in. It will mean that Kevin Siggy will re-inherit the race lead here. He'll go towards the top of the order. Tim Yarshell just about, well, less than half a second behind at this stage. And we can't really forget about Nikodem Wisniewski here, Luke. He's kept himself honest. He's kept himself in contention while he hasn't locked onto the back bumper of Siggy or Yarshell. He's been there or thereabouts to pick up the pieces just in case something may go wrong between these two.
I think that something really important here is that Tim Yarshell has the fastest lap of the race. So Kevin Siggy had that, and now it's Tim Yarshell's. Nikodem Wisniewski, there's 2 scenarios here. One, he doesn't have the pace to really hang with the front 2, and that is why there's a gap there. Or 2, he's saving his tyres to really be able to attack near the end of this race. With a tyre where it's not anything crazy, there is a little bit of a difference between the start of a stint and the end of a stint. So maybe there is that. Well, I think it's probably the former, unfortunately, there for Nikodem. And there is a third scenario here. Tim Yarshell really does try and challenge Kevin Siggy. They cost each other a significant amount of time. Nikodem Wisniewski swoops on in, takes the race victory, drinks a champagne, has a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, that is within the realms of possibility. Let's just say that depending on how close these guys get, I don't think if you're Tim Yarshell you want to take too many risks at this stage, though, because there's really no point. You're so far ahead of the championship in this early stage that you don't want to risk it all on trying to get just a couple of extra points.
Looking back here, Jeffrey Rietveld is trying to make a move on Jack Heathley. I saw Jack Heathley make an absolute dart. There we go. He made a dart to defend early on the exit of the final corner. You can see there, Rietveld trying to make a move, and Marcel Chinchik, there's contact between them. Luckily, they get away with it. I got pretty animated there, because on any other sim, I think that's game over for Jeffrey Rietveld. Luckily, the contact physics on RaceRoom are a little bit more forgiving than anywhere else. And luckily, he's still facing in the right direction. But yeah, I'm just getting flashbacks of every other sim, and that would be a car and a barrier.
Yeah, on this sim, you can definitely lean on each other. You can maybe potentially, barge your way through in some cases without any of the participants pointing in the wrong direction eventually. It can and does still happen, of course, but much harder to do here in RaceRoom compared to some other sims. That's just a trend that both myself and Luke have noticed, having worked with many different sims over the years doing this sort of commentary. But we're coming up to 5 minutes left to go here. Of course, we have the unresolved question of the race lead. So Kevin Siggy, Tim Yarshell, that still remains 4 to 5/10 of a second. So not all that much in the grand scheme of things. Although Nikodem Wisniewski and Enzo Benito, that might be a little bit of a thing potentially towards the end of this race. No, my eyes are deceiving me. They are quite far apart out there on circuit, as Wisniewski is in a little bit of no man's land there. Not close enough to the front 2 to challenge them, but also the driver behind him is not close enough for him to worry. So just kind of chilling in the zone at the moment.
Yeah, he needs Tim Yarshell and Kevin Siggy to fight. Really, it's as simple as that for him to catch up and take a victory. But another podium for Nikodem will be a nice day in the office, that's for certain. Not as nice, though, as Tim Yarshell, because he is staring down the barrel at the same results he had at the Nürburgring, where he managed to pick up a P2 in race 1, a P1 in race 2. It'll be reversed this time round. He got a P1 in race 1, and it'll be a P2 in race number 2. And there's one driver between him and a double race victory, and that is the reigning DTM Esports Champion. It is Kevin Siggy. Look at that beautiful man there, red line offices, trying to keep hold of the victory. You won't see him sweat, that's for certain. You won't see him panicking or anything like that. He's very much a cool customer when he's behind at that sim rig. Tim Yarshell closes up in the braking zone and get pretty good traction out the corner. The Audi still holding firm. 3 minutes 50 seconds to go here, Connery. Right now, Kevin Siggy looking to take his first victory of the season.
Under a decent amount of pressure as well. It's not imminent pressure, but Yarshell has just been sitting there behind and lurking. So it's going to be a tough one for Siggy. I am confident that he'll be able to do it. Look how Yarshell just drags the brakes in towards turn number 1 to bring that Porsche's front bumper right up to the rear of the Audi ahead. But again, can't maintain any sort of overlap at this stage, as the laps do start ticking down and away. Not too far now from the final lap, or final 2 laps of the race.
There's a mistake there from Yarshall, and that's what I was trying to allude to earlier on, is when you get those left wheels in that little groove out of turn number 3, you cannot turn right until you've exited that curve, whereas if you take a little bit of a less tight line, thus being a little bit slower, you can turn a little bit earlier for the right-hander. So it's kind of got its pluses and its negatives taking that line, and it's really giving Kevin a little bit of room to maneuver. The gap's come out about a 1/10 of a second through this lap, but ultimately, along this straight here up towards the final chicane, and then at that final corner down towards turn number 1, the gap will come down naturally because of the slipstream. But you can just see that Porsche is able to close in under braking. It's just able to get so much more rotation, and the Audi just really focused on that top end speed at the end of the straight. Around the final corner, I think this might be the closest they have been. 2 minutes left on the clock. Tim Yarshall might be within striking distance here. He's managed to get under the 3/10 of a second mark once before this race, and he didn't send it. And he's done it once again. And does he try anything? No, he doesn't. So he gets right close underneath that rear wing of the Audi. But right now, as it stands, Kevin Siggy is going to live to fight another day. He runs a little bit deep, though, through turn number 2. And I'll be about to see a Porsche send one up the inside of turn number 3. No, because Kevin gets across and defends it again. Doesn't get in that groove on the inside of turn number 3, thus being able to turn earlier for turn number 4. Heading down towards the hairpin for the sprint variant of this Nürburgring circuit. Tim Yarshall fakes to move up the inside, tries to force Kevin to run deep through the apex of this corner. Doesn't quite work out here. Head now down towards turn number 5. 1 minute 29 seconds left on the clock. They will have one more lap to go once they cross the checkered line here at the Nürburgring. Kevin Siggy, by an absolute minimum margin, just about holding on.
Yeah, doing very well indeed is that red line driver of Kevin Siggy. He has to do it for one more lap though. Yarshall getting closer and closer, just 0.2 of a second on the way up in towards the chicane at the back end of this lap. Siggy potentially under threat into turn 1 on the final lap of this race. Look at how close Yarshall is now. It's now or never.
Yeah, down across the line we will go for the final lap of today's racing action. Tim Yarshall right up the chuff pipe here of Kevin Siggy. Kevin will have to go defensive, thus being slow on the exit of the hairpin. They pull along side by side for the first time. Kevin will hang that car out as long as he possibly can to force Yarshall a little bit wide as we come through turn number 2. The inside line held by Kevin again. Just overextends slightly, forcing Yarshall offline. There is a potential opportunity down towards turn number 3. Oh, there's a nudge there from Tim Yarshall. Kevin Siggy's still going to hold on to that inside line. Yarshall effectively has to let him go there. I think that would be penalised if it went to the steward's room. They're still side by side. Nikodem Wisniewski looking in the background there for an opportunity, thinking if you guys keep doing this all lap, there might be that one more chance for me into the final corner. Kevin Siggy just about gets that car across the nose of the Porsche in behind, and we have now only got ourselves 4 corners to go. Through the right-hander they come. Now it's the long run up towards that final chicane. The gap out to about 0.3 of a second once again. And it's a manageable gap here for Kevin Siggy, I think, as we head up then towards the braking zone for that final chicane. Of course, it's the slower of the 2 variants of that chicane. Close up there from Tim Yarshall. Tim Yarshall looking to make it 2 from 2 today. Is there going to be a late lunge? Kevin does go across defensive very, very early. He's just going to lag on those brakes as we come across the line. There are some absolute facts in life. Taxes being paid. Death. Kevin Siggy winning a DTM Esports race. Congratulations to him. He will take a race victory, making that 3 different drivers picking up the checkered flag this season. Tim Yarshall, very, very impressive week. Again, it's a P1 and a P2 for him. P3 for Nikodem Wisniewski. Enzo Benito takes 4th position. Brzezinski in 5th. Keithley, Rietveld are in 6th and 7th. We've then got Shinchik in 8th. Yuri Toman in 9th. And Isaac Price rounding out your top 10. You'd never think he just won a race there, would you, Connery? He looks very unhappy with how that went. Yet he's just gone out and won against maybe the strongest field the RaceRoom world has ever seen.
This is the weird thing about some sim races, is they just don't show emotion. It's a really weird thing. They just treat it like every other race. It's yeah, it is. It just is what it is, I suppose. I'm not entirely sure what the reason might be, but that's just the facts of it. But we'll get our second page of results there. Moritz Lohner, and of course, you know, one of the biggest movers in the race, up to P11. Fantastic stuff. Did exactly what he did in race number 1. Lord knows how he does it. It's he just sort of out of nowhere. You see at the end of the first couple of laps, like, wait, Lona's gained like 10 spots.
Yeah, he's qualified outside the top 20 twice and ended up near enough in the top, nearly in the top 10 twice as well. Morris Lona then P11, Dominic Blyer P12, Marco Pajic in 13th ahead of Isaac Gillison, Ottaviani in 15th, Worley and Hassa are your 16th and 17th with Ben Spanky, Vermeulen as your top 19 with Gianmarco Fiducci rounding out your top 20. And to our final 10 drivers on the grid, M.A. Chihan in 21st, Lucas Muller in 22nd, Rudiger will take 23rd, then got Mitchell in 24th, Leonard Krippner in 25th. We've got Boldy, Faringa, Kunze, Carton, and Delorme as your top 30 drivers. I think there's one more to go, actually, isn't there? There's 31 drivers that appeared today. Well, Erhan Yayovsky is unfortunately a DNF, and Christopher Hugveld is a DNF as well. So all 32 did take part in that race. 2 of them, unfortunately, with the DNF next to their name. So Kevin Siggy picks up a race victory. Of course, he is our reigning champion coming into this season. But realistically, the day does belong to Tim Yarshall again. It is a P1 and a P2 for the young German. And realistically, it is almost impossible for people to catch him as to how everyone else has been doing around him. Because not only has he done so well at the top end of each race, everyone else around him have been struggling to get those consistent results.
Yeah, that has been the story of the season so far. It's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to touch Yarshall at this point. And I never thought I would be saying that at this stage of the competition, saying someone is untouchable already. But that kind of feels like the situation we find ourselves in. It's never what you want to hear if you want one of the other drivers in this series to say, "Oh my God, he's got a massive gap already. What am I gonna do about that?" Well, one of the things you have to hope for potentially is Yarshall having issues later on in this season, potentially getting involved in some form of incident, getting finishing down through the field. Maybe you can start to claw back points in that sense. But I think under normal circumstances now, Yarshall is basically running away with it.
Yeah, it quite simply needs someone to have the same kind of form he's having in the first 2 rounds of this championship, but for the next 4, which is very, very difficult indeed. Everyone's going to have a bad race. Everyone's going to have a bad round. But right now, he looks very, very strong indeed. Just a real standout performance. Let's check out the calendar for the rest of the season then before we do indeed have some interviews for you. Hopefully, we have a couple of drivers pop in. We'll give them a couple of minutes to pop in. If not, then we'll have to end it there. But yeah, we had round 1, which is the Nürburgring on the 8th of this month. Then we headed to the Nürburgring today, which has just happened. Next week is the final round before we have a couple of weeks break at the Lausitzring. Then in round number 4, we head to the Sachsenring. Round number 5, we head to the Red Bull Ring on the 12th of April. And then the finale will be at the Hockenheim Ring on the 19th of April. So we'll give them a bit of a chance then, Connery, to get themselves involved for an interview. But have you had anything stick out for you today in terms of highlights?
Well, it is kind of difficult to say in that the drivers didn't give us a huge amount of action here today. Of course, we saw Moritz Lohner in the opening couple of laps work his way up through the field. I mean, we saw the opening fight of race 1, which I thought was pretty exciting, that Yarshall was just about able to squeak through on, and then, of course, got his 2-second gap towards the end, so that is potentially a highlight. But, of course, the opening laps between Siggy and Yarshall in the second event as well could be one to hit the highlight reels. But yeah, it's all been pretty interesting, pretty intriguing, and I hope that once we get to the Lausitzring, we will be able to have some good action there as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think there'll be more opportunities to overtake there as well. It's quite a wide circuit. It's very unique actually as a circuit. It should be fun for them all to race. But yeah, Tim Yarshall. Let's have a little chat about him again. Like last week, it's been impressive. We've always, known about Tim for the last couple of years. He's been in and around the top ends of, RaceRoom. Obviously, the ESLR one. He's dabbled on iRacing as well. Like he's had plenty of opportunities in terms of, his sim racing, representing Dur Esports now, Falcon Sim Racing, which is kind of the same thing but different sort of brands. Which is, nice to see teams branching out with their sponsorships as well. But a really impressive performance today. I think in the second race, he probably could have been a little bit more aggressive for the victory, but it was a very mature drive in the end because he didn't try and force anything, didn't try and do anything too silly, and ultimately has walked away with all the points today.
And that's how you like to do it, right? No dramas, no pressure whatsoever. Just get the job done in the best way possible, and that's the dream. That's the dream situation for every single driver. And Yarshal's been able to do it for these first couple of events, and yeah, that is a very, very scary prospect for absolutely everyone else. It's tough to find a way back for anyone out there, but it just makes it more exciting when potentially, that situation might happen.
Yeah, 100%. Any final thoughts then, Connery?
Well, we can have a look at our pole position awards. Asher Racing pole position awards. Who else would it be than Tim Yarshall at the moment? He's 3 from 4 in terms of pole positions at the moment. Well on his way to get the Asher Racing pole position award for this season. Of course, you got Moritz Lohner on one pole position, but again, with the qualifying performance that Yarshall's been able to put out so far, I imagine he's going to get a majority of these.
Yeah, who knows? Again, his form could change dramatically, but it doesn't look like it is at the moment. That is some prize, by the way, for that. Fastest lap award also goes to Tim Yarshall. He managed to get himself a 24.614, and that was at the race number 2 today. Congratulations to him. And yeah, he looks like he is on his way to winning the DTM Esports. I know we're already only in round number 2. We've still got 4 rounds to go, but he has been that good. Connery, again, any final thoughts now? Now we've done the qualifying award. Any final thoughts about today?
It's all about wondering who's going to step up to the plate now. That's the situation. Who is going to try and make their mark on this championship? Who's going to try and chase Tim Yarshall in these latter rounds of the season? It's going to be a long slog for whoever decides that they want to be the one. It's one of those things where you just have to take each race as it comes and narrow that margin bit by bit by bit, always having to consistently finish ahead of him. But that's just the situation that we find ourselves in now. Someone has to at least try and do it, otherwise Yarshall's championship is basically his.
We're seeing glances of absolute brilliance from the usual names, the Moritz Lohners, the Kevin Siggies, but they cannot put it all together and have consistent round after round after round, because that title belongs to Tim Yarshall. He leads the championship. He's got another P1 and a P2. We'll find out how he gets on in round 3 in 7 days' time. Make sure that you come and tune in, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, or wherever it is, and find out how we get on next time round at the Lousy Spring.